Good morning and welcome to H3 TV, where we talk about how to stay hopeful, healthy, and happy in the midst of disruptions. Today, what's on my heart and what's on my mind is the heaviness of the holidays. I think sometimes the expectations get just that much higher, and then the pain gets that much deeper. And so when we think about the holidays and we move into them, we think about loss. And many of you know that on December 8th, Sunday afternoon, I had the privilege of sitting bedside, praying and singing with my mom, her 96-year-old mom, who took her last breath and peacefully passed into heaven. But it certainly brings up the loss of brothers and sisters and family and friends. And so the question we wrestle with today is, how do we stay hopeful, healthy, and happy, especially in the holidays when everything's just a little amplified and often a little bit harder? So today I'm super excited to have my guest with me today, my friend Paige. So please welcome to the stage, Paige. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you, Annie. I'm so sorry about your mom.
Thank you. Thank you. It's, that bittersweetness of when someone's 96, we're ready to let them go. And yet the reality of never getting to talk to your mom on the phone in this earth again is hard. So Paige, tell us about you. Who are you? Where do you live? What do you do? All the good things.
So I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is basically Boston. And I started a marketing consulting firm about 23 years ago.
Awesome. That's congratulations. Staying in, I always think if we can stay in business 4 years or more, we are doing pretty dang good. So 23 years is amazing. I like to talk about on this show a lot about disruption because we all faced it in different ways, professionally and personally. But I also like to talk about the heart and the holidays this month. It's like been on my mind. I am feeling the heaviness of not only our story, but so many around us. So would you be willing to share a story either about a disruption in your life, personal or professional, or a hard part of the holiday season that you face?
So, whether you lose someone last week, last month, last year, 10 years ago, I think the holidays can be really hard. My husband and I went through a 6-year window where we lost 7 of our inner circle family members, both of his parents, both of my parents, my stepfather, one of his siblings, my great aunt, who was the matriarch of our family. Mm-hmm. And so the holidays are always bittersweet for us too. As we decorate our Christmas tree with all of our ornaments from childhood, because we got them all back as we were cleaning out our parents' homes. Each one brings back a happy memory when we were young and, all the families were together. And I think one of the hardest parts, you're never ready to lose the ones you love, even when they're old, even when they're sick. It's just, like you said, the finality of it. But the role that your parents play in your life and in your family is they're the glue that kind of keeps everyone together. And so once they're gone, that glue kind of disappears. So the siblings tend to go their separate ways. They tend to create new traditions, new habits. So you're no longer spending Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's with your unit, with the people that you grew up with, all those wonderful traditions. My husband and I, we've because we went through it, ironically, almost together, even though our parents were a couple of decades apart. It just forces you to again, just try something new. And, Mother's Day, I think, is probably the hardest for both of us. I can't even go into a CVS drugstore the month of May because I just have to avoid the card aisle. My mom's birthday was, and she died, and her birthday and Mother's Day were all within the same week. So that's just an incredibly tough period. And some of our closest friends also have all lost their moms. So we started doing kind of like, we'd take trips, we'd go to New York City, we'd get, and we did not go to a restaurant where everybody was having Mother's Day brunch on Sunday. So I think you have to create new habits, new activities, new traditions. And if it's not your, family unit biologically, it's your family by choice with close friends.
Yeah.
And for Thanksgiving and Christmas too. So
So
you know,
let's talk about that. You're kind of jumping ahead. You're giving me the problem and the solution at the same time, Paige, and that's okay. That is totally okay. And I'm sorry for all your loss. And you're right. I think that when we lose someone, even if it's not close together, I've lost a brother and a sister and a nephew, and so it stacks, right? And so one loss brings us back to those previous days of grief and pain in our life. And um, so thank you for reminding us of that, and just to be gentle with ourselves. I think, I know so many people have lost in many ways, from death to a job to a intimate relationship to a longing of maybe having a baby they thought they'd have by Christmas and they don't. And so I really have a heart for all of these different kinds of losses. And so what I want you to share with us is, and you've kind of already shared a few, but if you could share, like, what were 3 things you did to kind of stay hopeful in the midst of that season of loss, in that losing one parent and then another. And that, you have to excuse me, I'm going to let you answer, and I have a dog knocking at the door, so I'm going to grab him. But tell us, what were some of your strategies or ideas? You already shared a couple, but what were some things you did? Because I know my listeners have some loss right now. I love that you said, I really think this is an intentional self-care thing, is I avoided seeing, like, my mom's birthday's in May and Mother's Day. I can't even imagine those right now as you're bringing them up. I'm like, oh crap, how am I going to deal with that? Oh, what am I going to do? But what are some strategies so people can feel comforted and safe and not throw themselves into more pain, whatever their loss is during this holiday season? So if you'll start to share some hopeful strategies, I'm going to grab my dog.
perfect. So I think number one, for me, and I've heard this saying, and it really rings true for me, especially this time of year, it's that self-care is healthcare. So you got to take care of yourself. And if that means just cutting yourself some slack, you don't have to go to all the activities. You can decide which ones really feel good. And if you're not up for it, it's okay. Give yourself a break and say, I don't have to hit every holiday party this weekend. Pick 1 or 2 that really are more intimate, maybe, or ones where you have much closer friends, not as corporate or professional in nature. And that's okay. That you allow yourself, give yourself permission to say no, and pamper yourself a little bit. Maybe get a massage. Maybe, just do something nice for yourself.
Yeah.
I just feel like this time of year, we can all be so tough on ourselves, and it's such a scramble sometimes at year end. Work, crazy, family. I think in a weird way, end of year is almost like, for people with children, it's like every recital, performance, there's activities. And I think you have to really trust your gut on these things, not to push yourself, because if you're not happy on the inside, you're not going to be happy on the outside. In my experience, it's like, find things that bring you joy, and double down on the things that are really fulfilling and fill your cup. Like for me, I love doing Tai Chi. I'm a bad knitter, but I enjoy knitting. And so, just give yourself an afternoon or a couple of hours to sit in a comfortable chair, turn on some music you love, and do something for yourself. You can read. A lot of people like to keep a gratitude journal, if that works for you. Just be thoughtful about the things you're really grateful for, the things that make you happy. The other thing that I have found, it works for me, it might not work for everyone. Volunteer. There's so many organizations out there that need help. And obviously, a lot of people write checks at the end of the year to support organizations that they support, that they believe in the mission. But, your presence can be a present as well, whether you serve food at a food bank or donate toys to a charity for children or visit kids in a hospital. Or there are a lot of organizations out there that would love, your presence to help them through this period, because it can be crazy for organizations too, on a kind of business level and a personal level.
Yeah,
So I just feel like I know when I'm personally kind of down in the dumps, it always makes me feel better to help people that are struggling, because then I realize I'm not the only one in the world having a bad day. And
that's
if
right.
you can bring light to somebody else, it always makes me happier.
Yeah, I love Paige. A couple things. One, you said self-care, and I love self-care. I think it's so important. I think sometimes people don't know what that is. Since my mom passed, like every day I have to decide. In fact, I think I'm going to cancel 3 meetings this afternoon because I have to decide how much energy I have and how much energy I need, right? So last Saturday, I found this amazing. I'm a big promoter of it. I want to be the spokesperson for it, like this heated sleeping bag. And it's like a sauna sleeping bag. So I literally last Saturday laid on the floor of my house watching Hallmark movies in my heated sleeping bag, just crying. And I thought, I don't care. I don't care if I miss every call, every email. I'm taking care of me. This is all I have energy for today. And so giving yourself permission to not do everything. And I think that go to places that fill you, don't drain you, is such an important key. And I mean, I've been an advocate for 15 years of live beyond gratitude to generosity, because grateful is what I get, but real joy has come for me in my life when I've been able to give, even out of my own depletedness or my own sadness, not when I'm completely depleted, but when I'm in a lower place. If I think of who could I go do something kind for, it brings me immense joy. So I love that reminder in there. I also forgot to say to our audience, please say hello. Tell us where you're listening from. Feel free to ask me or Paige questions throughout the present time we have together on our talk show. We love to hear from you. One thing I always like to think about, Paige, is that sometimes because we are in our own pain or low spot in the holidays or in the midst of disruption or loss, it's hard to be healthy. And I know a lot of people think about physical health, but for me, for many years now, I always think health is 7 areas. It might be more than that, but for me, it's your physical, your emotional, your mental, your financial, your spiritual, your relational health, and your career health. And so, do you have any tips for when you were going through that season of grief and losing so many people, how you or your husband stayed healthy, or how you helped each other stay healthy in any of those 7 areas? Because when we get hit by a great loss or just any disruption, which is a loss and grief on some level, and even physical disruptions can affect us emotionally and bring back those other losses. What are some tips for how you stayed healthy? If you could just give us a few things that you did or do to stay healthy when you're going through that.
So one, I think, is to spend time in nature. And you can be in an urban environment and take a walk outside, get some fresh air, get some sunlight, find a bench or a chair where you can sit in the sun and just breathe and take it all in. I always feel like rejuvenated if I've been out and my body has moved, and your chi is flowing and your energy, it always makes me feel better to go outside, even in cold weather, even in hot weather. I just think you have to kind of shake up your body a little bit. So that's really important. I think another thing that I really had to learn is get comfortable with white space on your calendar. You do not need to double book and overbook yourself. I think a lot of us confuse activity with progress. We
Mhm.
like to be busy because it makes us feel like, oh, we're important and we're getting things done. And that's not true. I think sometimes we fill our calendar just to not have to think about stuff and not have to admit that you're sad or you're lonely or you're tired. You just fill your dance card, and then you like feel terrible. You're exhausted. You were on autopilot. You weren't really present for any of it. So I think it's really important for people to block space off, like proactively, on your schedule, whether you do a few blocks a week, or you just give yourself Friday afternoons off, or whatever makes sense for you.
Yeah.
um, I think it's really important to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and just having your uh, having the ability to just say no. I can't see you on Friday afternoon. It's taken.
Yeah.
It's you're your most important customer or client. And if you don't feel good, you're not going to be in good shape for anybody else either. So those are things that I think are really important. The other thing is to like know who kind of fills your
Mm,
soul, like the people that you get energy from, the ones who fill your cup
yeah,
and the ones who drain you,
that's right.
because there are people that will suck you dry if you let them.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be very aware and cognizant of like not giving too much of yourself to people who drain you. You want those people that are energy multipliers, that when you spend time with them, you feel great. You
Yes.
know, you leave feeling better than when you came. They spark new ideas and creativity. And
Yeah.
make sure the balance of people, when you look at your week last week, when you look at your calendar, what's the proportion of things that energize you and things that drain you?
Yeah.
And keep score and don't have too many of the energy zappers on your schedule, because it's just it's not a good way to live your life. And sometimes it takes a jolt and a disruption of losing dear people in your life to say, hey, wait a minute, life is short, we're not here that long. I owe it to myself to to see the people who I care about the most, who I want to spend time with the most, and um, be deliberate about it, be intentional.
Yeah. I would love for you to write in the comments those 3 tips. I think they're really good. I really think movement's medicine. I think having an appointment with yourself is a hard thing for a lot of people. They feel like you're right. Doing adds value. And then also for me, I refer to them as the Eeyores and the Tiggers in your life. Who's filling you up? Some people Tiggers wear them out, and who's draining you? The Eeyores. But I think those are great tips. So after we get done with our talk show, let's make sure we add those to the comments. Those are great, simple strategies for a place for people to start. And then I really believe laughter is the greatest medicine. And so I'm curious, when life gets hard, Paige, where do you find humor and happiness? And where do you find it? How do you spread it? What do you do to refill with joy in the midst of that sadness?
So, there are a lot of great humorous writers. There are a lot of great comedians, whether it's on YouTube or Amazon Prime or Apple TV, whatever your streamer of choice is. Um, I went through a phase after my mom died where I was reading um, books of women who were about my age or a little bit older. Allie Wentworth, who's married to George Stephanopoulos, is hilarious. I found myself hysterical laughing with tears running down my face. We're about the same age. And Nora Ephron, who wrote, Harry Met Sally. And she has amazing books about what it's like for women to age. One of the funniest scenes in her book, I think it was the one where she says, the title was something like, I hate my neck. And she talked about, she was, I think, in her 60s, and she had found a picture of herself in her 20s.
Oh,
And she was looking at it. She was on the beach in a bikini. And she said, oh my God, if I knew then how great I looked. I used to think, oh, my stomach's too big. I should have worn a one piece. I should have had a cover up on. She said, I looked amazing. If I had realized I looked that good, I would have worn a bikini down Fifth Avenue in New York. I would have never taken it off. I looked amazing. And so sometimes when I'm being really hard on myself, I get dressed to go to a meeting or go to a party, and I think, oh, I just don't even look that good. I'm like, remember what Nora Ephron said. You're going to look back at this moment and say, oh my God, I looked great. I should have been so much more like happy and proud and held my head up and just, been thrilled with how great I looked at that point in my life. So I think, find people, David Sedaris. I mean, there are just so many people out there that, some people like Jerry Seinfeld, Dave Chappelle. I mean, there's so many, you know, humorous people that their humor resonates with me. And if I watch a 10-minute clip or a film that they're in, it just makes me feel better. And I agree with you. Laughing, just, there's something about like feeling happy, feeling hopeful, like it really permeates every aspect of your body, your mind. And you're just more fun to be with yourself, more fun to be with other people. So find what works for you, and what works for you might not work for someone else, but it doesn't matter as long as it works for you.
Yeah, that's awesome, Paige. I love that. And I love that it's a female author. I love men. I have a lot of male audiences, but I have a lot of women too. And I will be like, how come everybody always lists male speakers, male quotes, male authors? So I'm going to ask you again in another comment, if you could share some of your favorite female authors or your favorite books, because books are a great escape and they're a great place to find laughter and joy. And I was just telling someone I watched the Jamie Foxx Netflix show, and I guess people have different feelings about it. But for me, it was him telling his story. I was laughing, I was crying, I was laughing. Then I was wondering if it was okay to laugh. Then I was like, oh, this is so beautiful and hopeful and faith-filled. Like it was like all these different things. So anyway, I love laughter, and I love, even in the midst of the hard, you can find laughter, right? And
Absolutely.
So standing with my mom, holding her hand as she passed, like I was laughing and I was crying at the same time. And I was so filled with joy for her that she was free from the pain and from the challenges of a lot of years. And I just know how healing laughter is. And so there's a picture with all the nuns around her bed and me in the background just tucked in. And one of my friends said, "Are you laughing?" And I'm like, "Yep." And she goes, "Did your mom just die?" And I go, "Yep." I go, it was like every emotion came out at once, right? And so I'm grateful for laughter. I'm grateful in the midst.
And it can happen. Yeah, it'll happen at the weirdest times. You'll be driving with the radio on and a song will come on and it'll just hit you. Like sometimes you think you're doing okay and you think you're, going to be just fine today. And then something, you smell someone's perfume when you walk by them on the street and it like reminds you of your mom or your grandmother or something. And it's really hard.
A lot of people thought my mom was my grandma because she was 40 years older than me. And then she had 3 more babies after me. But She just had a wild, adventurous, troublesome life prior to having kids. And, she taught me a lot of things about faith and travel and communication and all the things that I use in my life today and in my work. And so I'm grateful for that. So what I wanted to ask you, Paige, is if you go back 20 years, I love the story about, in fact, I have a picture of me in a bikini at 23, and I remember being self-conscious, and now I think I'm going to post it on Facebook just for that one. No, just kidding. But if you go back 20 years prior to losing all these people you loved in your life and your family, and you're right, we choose family. And I love your intention of like, you plan something specific on Mother's Day that's not, I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm not ready for that, but that's not about Mother's Day, and you be with people that you love, and sometimes the family that we create, because you're right. Even in I had 7 siblings at one point, but some have passed, but it will change the dynamics, because a lot of times what we talked about was mom. And so when mom's not here, what do we talk about? But what wisdom or insight would you give to a younger or earlier version of yourself, somebody who's listening, who hasn't lost their parents or lost so many loved ones? Like, what do you wish you would have known prior to losing all those people you loved? Is there something?
Well, I think if I knew then what I knew now, I think I would have cut myself a lot more slack and been a lot more forgiving in general. I mean, life really is short, and, it's natural for families to disagree and fight about things. But in the scheme of life, like, is it really that important that you're not going to talk to somebody or not going to call somebody because you're pissed off that they did something that you felt slighted? Or, I just think we need to be more honest with ourselves. Like a lot of times when I was cranky about things that I might have blamed my mom or dad or grandparents, like they were being jerks or they don't understand or they don't get it. the truth is it was something probably more about me than about them. And I just wish that I didn't waste any sleep or frustration or angst or agita, whatever, on being mad at that person or not being present when we were together. I think a lot of times, you get together out of obligation. You're like, oh, we have to go here. We have, I hate Uncle so and so because he always drinks too much. And try and see the humor and the fun in things, and don't obsess about the things that annoy you. I mean, I think don't wish your life away. Like, if only I could do this, or if only, we could fast forward. Like, enjoy your life at every stage, because every stage has something to offer. And I just think, it's one of those things that you want to be, you just want to enjoy every stage of your life, learn the lessons you're supposed to learn, and pass on the things that you've, the war stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly. When my mom was on her deathbed, we were talking about any sort of regret she might have had. And she said something to me that really stuck with me. My mom was very petite. She didn't smoke. She didn't drink. She ate really healthy. When she ordered at a restaurant, she'd have them hold the sauces and hold the butter and hold the oil, just, put it on the grill and put just the lightest touch. She was always wouldn't get dessert or the healthiest dessert possible and only eat a bite or two. And she said at the end of her life, I wish I had put the butter on the bread and had the glass of wine, because everyone around the table seemed to be enjoying the meals much more than I did. And I wish, she died at 66, which was really young. She had cancer. And, despite being thin and active and doing everything she thought she could do for good health and longevity, it didn't happen that way. And so, when I'm with friends, when we're at a great restaurant and I see something and it's not the healthiest option on the menu, or they put the bread in the middle of the table. And, there was definitely a period before the pandemic where like nobody would touch the bread. Like, it's almost like it was a cigarette or something, like, don't grab the bread, it's bad for you. But, after she died, I'm like, if the rolls look good, I'm going to have one. I'm going to put a little butter on it because the butter's really yummy. And I am going to order the chocolate dessert because it looks great. And I don't have to eat the whole thing, but I'm not going to deprive myself of stuff that I'm going to enjoy and share with the people that I'm being, out with. So I would just say to a younger version of me, cut yourself slack, give yourself grace, forgive people, love people for the reasons they're lovable, and let it go for the things that annoy you. Just, don't obsess about things you can't change and that you don't have control over. And, eat and drink what you want to drink in moderation, but don't deprive yourself of stuff so that you're the one at the table that doesn't seem to be having as much fun as everybody else.
Yeah. Live life to the fullest and love and forgive and stay positive and look for the good, right? Like all the good things. My mother passed at 96. So she lived a very full life. And my mother was so naughty in so many ways. It's one way I just like to describe her, but she did not believe in making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich without, you had to put butter on and then jelly and then butter on and then peanut butter. And so I'm not good about self-control when it comes to food. And I'm not blaming her. I'm just saying, like, she ate ice cream so I didn't grow up around a mother. I didn't know that some women were like, don't eat carbs. And my daughter teaches me there's like almond mothers. And I'm like, what does that mean? And she's like, well, you eat an almond, then you say you're full to your kids. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, and my guy friends are like, you order a cheeseburger, all the ladies ordering salad. But we don't know. No matter how much control we have or how healthy we are. Like my mom ate cheese with mold on it, and Velveeta was a main cheese, you know, like just the things, living on hot dogs due to poverty. But just that, live life to the fullest and love people. Like forgiveness for me has been one of my saving graces, is being able to forgive people. And really what you're talking about in my mind that I try to teach the whole world, whether you have a faith or not, is the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change. That's hard. Or no, God, grant me the serenity, yeah, to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I always want to change other people. Like, I'm like, if you just did this, life would be easier. And it's like, oh, yeah, you're not in charge of them. I'm like, dang it.
Let it go. Let it go.
Love them where they're at and just pour into people, because we get a moment. Like we get a moment here. And some of us get 96 years of moment. And this week, a friend died 41, a friend died 65. It's like life is precious. And enjoy. Like I love butter. I didn't know people didn't eat butter. Like, and warm bread. How do you pass that up? Or chips and salsa, or queso, or all the things. But are you okay, buddy? Oh, my puppy tried to jump and he's got a bone in his mouth and he hit his face on the couch. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so yes, I love that gentler self to yourself. One thing I wanted to ask you, Paige, is, and this can be related to challenge or disruption or loss, but I know you work with people on marketing, and really that's about messaging, about how they show up and how they connect with other people. But I'd love to hear a success story of someone you worked with that when you met them was just feeling discouraged, just unseen, or not successful. What did you do with them? What was their story? What's one of your successes that you've had with a client?
So there are a lot of different examples. There's a woman that we worked with who was in wealth management. You know, she helped people manage their
assets or did I lose you? You look like you froze on me, so you're not.
Finances, their estate. When she reached out to us, she was, there are a lot of wealth management firms that are run by men, and she had one of the bigger ones run by women.
Okay.
And she was very discouraged because she felt invisible. Like, you know, in the articles that are written up about these firms like mine, they never mention me. They're always quoting the men. They never quote me. I feel like, you know, why aren't we getting any attention? Why when I go to events, these men who have much smaller businesses than me, they act like they're so important. Like, what am I doing wrong? And, you know, why is it that I feel like, you know, we don't stand out? We're just stuck in this sea of sameness. And when we started digging into her business, we realized that her core audience were women that had gone through events in life that led to financial windfall. They either inherited a lot of money through death or divorce. Maybe they sold a company, but they had a big windfall of financial success.
Okay.
And she helped these women manage their situation and set them up for a very successful next chapter of their life. And what we did is we translated that into a bunch of messaging points and stories on her website as part of her case studies. And it got to the point where she was so comfortable talking about who she helps and why she helps them, that everybody, like all of her friends, all of her contacts, almost became like a marketing arm for her. Because if you found out a woman you know was getting divorced, or a woman you know came from a wealthy family and everyone knew she had just inherited a big estate, it's like people came out of the woodwork and said, you know, you really should call Susan. She's really, like, that is the person. I don't know if you know her. I'm happy to introduce you, but she works with women like you, and she does a great job, and she's going to help you. And so here's someone going through a transition in their life, through death, through divorce, through success, and they don't know which way is up. They're very unsettled and trying to figure out what to do in this new chapter of their life. And it doesn't matter who they bump into, whether it's a friend, whether it's a colleague, whether it's someone at a networking event. Like, can you imagine if somebody walked up to you and said, like, Annie, I'm so sorry to hear about your mom. I don't know if, there's a significant estate with your mom, but I will tell you, there's a woman I want to introduce you to because she would be great to help you, even if it's a small estate, but especially if it's big. This is the person you want in your corner. You definitely want to talk to Susan because she's going to be able to help you and really set you up for success. So by the time people found her, like they had been pre-sold, everyone they trusted and knew had already brought her up. They weren't shopping for people. They were pre-qualified.
Nice.
And then she had all the case studies and all the stories to share with them, to tell them, oh, I worked with someone just like you, or I worked with someone who was very similar to you. This is what was the same. This is what's different. And this is how we were able to help her. And guess, if you'd like to talk to her as a reference, I'd be more than happy to set you up. So her business just flourished because she had a niche and she owned that niche. And the guys that ran comparable businesses really didn't get this market at all anyway. So she became like she owns that real estate in everybody's mind. And, people that were accountants or attorneys, like all the gatekeepers that are not even competitors of her, but people that could make referrals and introductions, they knew about her. So it was just an opportunity for her to have the confidence to have a great story to tell and to feel like she's really sharing what she knows and loves. She's not selling. She's just telling stories of like things she's done that have helped other people. And it was, a lot of people think of marketing as a necessary evil. Like, I don't really believe in it. I don't like being salesy or pushy. But if it's natural and authentic to you, and you're just talking about stuff that you know and love and you're good at, you don't feel like it's salesy. You feel like, I want to share with you something, like this is the best kept secret. I want to tell you about my friend who can help you.
Yeah.
And that's when marketing, that's like when it's magic. All the stars align and it's a win-win. It's a win for the person. It's a win for their customers and clients. And, it's a win for everybody.
Yes. Thank you, Paige. That's a beautiful story of success. And you're right. It's just a good story. It's telling the right story, a good story to help people, and the right people will show up. So thank you for sharing that. I know, Paige, our time has come to an end, but I know people will want to connect with you. What is the best place to connect with you?
So best place is LinkedIn.
Okay.
And even though my last name is hyphenated, on LinkedIn, it's all smushed together.
Okay.
So PaigeArnoff-Fenn, and you will find me on LinkedIn. That is my platform of choice.
Perfect. Well, thank you for being with us, Paige. Hello, Misha. Good morning. Misha's on listening, saying good morning to us. Good morning. And thank you to all of our listeners. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, please feel to write them in the comments below. And myself or Paige or both of us will get back to you. We're here to encourage you and support you, understand you, have empathy and compassion and encouragement for you during the holiday season, even if it's hard. Try to keep your expectations low. Set some boundaries so you take care of yourself and have downtime. We've been there, both of us, and we encourage you on your journey. Whatever loss, whatever grief, whatever expectations get disappointed this year, there's still beauty and joy in the holidays. So take care. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Paige. Thank you to our listeners. Take care. See you next week.
Thanks, Annie.